All right, welcome back. Today we're going to break down what might be the single most important piece of any powerful argument. And I mean any argument, whether you're in a boardroom or just, trying to win a friendly debate. So let me ask you this. How do you actually build an argument that's, well, unbreakable? What's the real difference between a point that lands and one that's just, your opinion? Well, it all comes down to having a solid framework, a tried and true method for thinking logically. And that framework, it's called IRAC. That stands for Issue, Rule, Analysis, and Conclusion. Now look, every single one of those parts is important, for sure. But today, we're going to zero in on the absolute bedrock, the foundation of the whole thing, the R, for rule. All right, let's get right into it. First things first, to really get why the rule is so critical, we've got to be clear on what it actually is. You can really think of it as the keystone, the one piece that holds the entire structure of your argument together. So what is the rule? Well, formally, it's the established law, the statute, the precedent, basically the official standard that governs whatever you're talking about. The key thing to remember is that it's the principle that already exists before you even open your mouth to argue. And I love this analogy, it just makes it so clear. Think of the rule as the official rule book for a game, right? I mean, you can't argue about whether a player was safe or out if you don't first agree on what the actual rules of baseball are. That's the rule. And that really gets to the heart of it. The rule gives you that objective, agreed-upon standard for the entire argument. It's the neutral ground. It's the one part that isn't about what you think or what I feel. No, it's the established fact that we both have to start from. Okay, so if the rule is our source of authority, our rule book, that brings up a pretty big question, right? Where do these things even come from? So is the law just some giant, dusty book that someone pulls off a shelf? Not exactly. The reality is actually way more organized. It's a layered system, and that's honestly what makes it so powerful. You see, these rules come from a very clear hierarchy of sources. Think of it like a pyramid. At the very top, the absolute peak, you've got constitutions. That's the supreme law of the land. Then, just below that, you have statutes. These are the laws passed by our legislatures. Then, you've got regulations, which are the specific rules that government agencies create to, actually put those statutes into practice. And then, at the base, you have case law, and that's all the decisions and interpretations that judges have made in past cases. It's a whole ecosystem of authority, all working together. Okay, so that's all the theory. But how does this stuff actually work? In the real world. Let's make this super tangible. We're going to see the rule in action with a really simple, everyday example. So forget the courtroom for a minute. Let's just go to a local park. Our entire example is going to revolve around a simple sign, the kind you've probably seen 100 times. All right, check this out. Here's our little scenario broken down using that IRAC structure. First, the issue. The question we're trying to figure out is a skateboard a vehicle? Simple enough. So where do we start? Well, we start with the rule. And in this park, the rule is right there on the sign. No vehicles allowed. That's it. That simple sentence is our objective standard. It's our rule book for this situation. Now, the entire argument, the whole analysis part, is going to be about what that specific rule actually means. And this is really the key takeaway here. The R is the anchor. It's what tethers your entire argument to something solid, something objective. Without a clear rule, what you have is, well, it's just an opinion, kind of floating in the breeze. It's the huge difference between saying, hey, I don't think you should do that, versus saying, hey, according to the rule, that isn't allowed. See the difference? One is just a feeling, but the other, that's a real argument. So that brings us to the end. But I want to leave you with a thought. Now that you know how to spot the rule, that objective standard that grounds any good argument, I want you to start looking for it. My question for you is, where else do you see this structure? I bet you'll see it in arguments all around you, in business meetings, in news articles, even just in everyday disagreements. Seriously, once you start looking for the rule, you're going to start seeing it absolutely everywhere. Thanks so much for tuning in.